New and explosive developments tonight surrounding Hunter Biden's hard drive from hell as Peter Schweizer, who's been reviewing the materials on the laptop, he confirmed to me that materials on that hard drive prove Joe Biden was a direct beneficiary of Hunter's nefarious foreign dealings. Now, remember, Joe repeatedly said he had no knowledge of Hunter's dealings. He said it repeatedly. I have no knowledge whatsoever. Never once spoke to Hunter about it. But we have pictures showing him meeting with, Hunter's business partners. We have emails showing Hunter was setting up meetings between foreign business partners and his father while he was vice president. And remember, the revelations from Tony Bobolinsky came forward and said that he met with Joe Biden and talked to him about his business deals with Hunter. Joe is lying. And while Joe was vice president, this was all going on. And it doesn't stop there, because Hunter's art dealings, by the way, are still shrouded in secrecy. What is the market for these paintings? Doesn't look like great art to me. Who are the buyers? Why are they being kept secret? Is this more influence peddling from the corrupt Biden Syndicate Business Bureau? Anyway, remember, there's still a cabal of deep state bureaucrats inside the FBI, the same FBI that illegally spied on President Trump. Can we really expect any serious, thorough investigation into the Biden family crime syndicate, given what we know about the current state of the FBI? Here with reaction, Republican Congressman Devin Nunes, along with Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Devin, let me start with you, Congressman, on this question. You're in the House Intel Committee. You know, you're privy to information you would not be able to provide me or even Congressman Chaffetz. Now, if somebody by the name of Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump got money from, let's see, Russia, and then Vladimir Putin got a waiver on an oil pipeline, I'm just making this up as I go, and at the same time Trump was canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. And imagine if, let's say, the $1.5 billion deal was with one of the Trump kids, and at the same time, our military bases were being threatened by the communist Chinese, and the reunification with Taiwan was being talked about. And, you know, if these things were happening, and if Donald Trump leveraged $1 billion to get a prosecutor fired who was investigating one of the Trump sons, I don't know, I would imagine that conflict of interest investigations would begin. Would you imagine the same?
Well, Sean, that story sounds awfully familiar. I think that somebody actually did do that. And I think if you look at it, the American people are smart enough to know that if this was any Republican, this would be a massive political scandal of one that we've really never seen. And don't forget, right before the election, this was supposedly Russian disinformation. It wasn't just Biden who said that. It was over 50 top intelligence and military officials who also said it. And I think at some point you have to ask yourself, were these former officials and the Bidens in the Biden campaign, were they colluding with Russia? Were they colluding with China to help cover this up, using the fake news and using the tech oligarchs who censored this? Those are the types of questions that we need to continue to get out there to the American people to expose this corruption. And what it really amounts to, I believe that this really swayed the election, because any type of scandal like this would have been blown up beyond belief before an election in October.
You know, I know you're friends with and work with Peter Schweizer, Jason Chaffetz. We now know that this hard drive exists, but yet nothing seems to be done about it. Why?
Because there's a bit of a cover-up going on at the moment. And remember, now I'm a distinguished fellow at the Government Accountability Institute. I do work with Peter Schweizer, but what he's done is he's cross-referenced some of the data from the Hunter Biden laptop with the FBI or the Secret Service records released by Senator Johnson and another business associate with Hunter Biden. So they're very careful about what they're looking at here. But there is direct evidence that Joe Biden himself, Joe and Jill Biden, took direct benefit by using assets and things that were purchased based on the transactions that Hunter Biden was involved and engaged with these foreign entities. And remember, Hunter Biden has had problems with Russian prostitutes. He is under a tax investigation by the federal government. He admits that. He's had problems with guns. He's had trouble with drugs. He's taken money from the former mayor of Moscow's wife in terms tune of millions of dollars. He has flown on Air Force Two with one of his business associates. How does a business associate of Hunter Biden fly on Air Force Two to go to Mexico City to set up a deal? You haven't heard the last of that. He's also flown on Air Force Two to China, and then he has these Ukraine monies flowing in by the tens of millions of dollars. This is one of the biggest political scandals that we have ever seen, and it is being covered up by the media. It is not being investigated, and the FBI certainly is doing its part to make sure that this information doesn't get out the door.
And where's John Durham, Congressman Nunes? I'll ask where he is, but I'll also ask, where's Adam Schiff?
Well, I don't really care where Adam Schiff is right now. I do care about John Durham. But, Sean, the other question we need to ask is to Jason Chaffetz. You know, he served with me honorably. He was oversight chairman at one point. But I just don't understand why Jason's not in the art business, because I hear, Jason, that you can get $500,000 for, you know, I know you've never been an artist like me, but this is another massive scandal. So to Jason's point, this whole art deal, if anybody concocted this, this would be another massive scandal. Nobody just gets out from nowhere, a lobbyist and drug issues and all this, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've always wanted to be an artist. Let me just sell it for, oh, let's say $500,000.
Yeah, I actually named it Portraits of a Crack Addict, and if it looks to me like finger painting, and if I can do it, it's not art. Trust me, I have no artistic ability. Last word, Jason.
There was recently a Van Gogh painting that was discovered, and guess what? It went up for auction for $150,000. It was only 1/3 the price of a Biden. You can go get a Biden, have access to the President of the United States. It's going to cost you 3 times more, but it's obviously worth a lot more than any Van Gogh out there, Sean.
Well, of course, it won't be made public. You know, maybe a Russian oligarch, a Chinese national, the Chinese military, a Kazakhstan oligarch, or maybe an executive from Burisma Holdings will buy it. Who knows? Thank you both. We appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.